it right back. Late clock here, down to 4. Gallinari, big shot for the Hawks to make it a 2-point game. He missed both of them, and this is going to be an Atlanta victory in Game 5. What a comeback, and what a collapse by the Sixers.
An all-time collapse in Philly. How can the Sixers recover from last night? You got to take the outside Jenga piece. A masterpiece in Salt Lake. Playoff piece, silencing his doubters. How beautiful. The Clips going up 3-2. And what will Kevin Durant do for his encore? Closeout opportunity tonight in Milwaukee. So, get on your horse. If you're an MVP, get pulled by a horse. Nicola told me this is one of his favorite things to do. This is harness racing. The jump starts now. Do you harness race? No? No, that's not something you do?
No. I mean, I push a stroller.
Well, there you go. Boom. Boom. The MVP back in his home country doing MVP things. Welcome to The Job. I'm Rachel Nichols, joined in studio all the way over to my left, our ESPN senior writer, Ramona Shelburne, and right here in the middle, senior writer for The Undefeated, our friend, Marc Spears. So fun today. Mallika Andrews is also going to join us. We're going to talk Nets Bucks. First, though, to truly appreciate what Paul George did last night, you have to go back in time a little. Back before COVID and the bubble, back before the whole streetlights over spotlights thing, before the party in Oklahoma City with Russell Westbrook and Nas, and before Thunder beat writer asked if he'd be willing to take on tough defensive matchups in the playoffs, a question that PG answered with the quote, "Y'all haven't met playoff P yet, have you?" Before all of that, Paul George was a 23-year-old in Indiana who had just won the NBA's Most Improved Player award, had made his first All-Star game, and had led his team to what would be the first of 2 consecutive Eastern Conference Finals. This was back in 2013, and PG was doing things like, well, this. Take a listen.
Here comes George, got the step and scores. What a move! It counts in the foul. A sensational move.
We are seeing a superstar in the making here with Paul George.
A superstar in the making. That series was against a Miami team at the height of its powers, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and yes, LeBron, who had just won his 4th MVP award and who PG spent most of the series checking. And that Eastern Conference Finals went 7 games. Frankly, the Heat were fortunate to get out of it alive, and Paul George walked away with a whole new understanding of what he could be in the NBA. So fast forward to nearly a decade later. Last night, PG was wearing his white Clippers jersey as he walked onto the floor in Utah. But if when you squinted, you saw a tinge of Pacer yellow, nobody could blame you. Paul was aggressive from the start, although so were the Jazz, who clearly smelled blood after learning that Kawhi Leonard's injured knee could keep him out the rest of this series. Utah hit 17 threes in the first half alone. 17 threes in the first half. But the Clippers never seemed rattled. And in the second half, it was PG who started tightening the screws, just as Donovan Mitchell seemed to run out of gas on the other side. Mitchell has been fighting an ankle injury throughout this series, and the more he played last night, the more you could see him struggle to push off or get to the paint or get much lift on his shot. Meanwhile, LA was getting contributions from all over. Marcus Morris was big in the third quarter. He would finish with a playoff career high 25 points. Reggie Jackson had a great fourth quarter doing stuff like that. Just woo! And Terrence Mann climbing the Stifle Tower with a dunk that seemed to rattle the rafters. And through it all, Paul George was there, scoring basket after basket after basket, until he'd finished with 37 points on 12 of 22 shooting, 16 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks. Afterward, Ty Lue described the way George had put the team on his back.
Before sure, I said, I got us. And he said the same thing after the game. He said, man, just thank you for trusting and believing in me, all season long. And I said, man, come on, you serious? Like, he's been phenomenal.
I don't know if phenomenal P has the same ring as playoff P, but the win did put the Clippers in control of the series. They can close it out tomorrow night in LA. And just as importantly, it helped PG, who is now top 30 points in 3 consecutive games, take another step clear of the controversy of the past few years, even as fans and, yes, other players have tried to keep him there. Remember when Devin Booker was trash-talking Paul earlier this season? That memory is a little more spicy now, the PG and Book are just a game away from facing each other in the Western Conference Finals. Although if the Clippers do get there, and it's still an if, I'm guessing we won't hear as much sniping at George this time. Sometimes to go forward, you have to take a page from your past. And that is exactly what Paul George did in Utah last night. He wasn't just playoff P, he was Pacers P. And that turned out to be exactly what LA needed. So, Marc, do you think Game 5 was a turning point for the Clippers?
Oh, definitely. It's putting them in a position that's haunted them for years. A chance to go to the conference final.
Yep.
They are 0-8 in this position. And playoff P has a chance now to make himself part of a Clippers story that hasn't been told.
Mm-hmm.
If he could be what we saw yesterday, if he could get them past this point, if he could do it in this building next door to us, he will always be a legend in Clippers people's eyes, and they can say whatever. But if he could get them to this next point, which I think he has the ability to do, there's gonna be some other P nickname they're gonna come up with.
Phenomenal P. Apparently, Ty Lue floating last night.
You know what I like to? Bill Plashkin, a friend of mine, asked Paul afterwards. He goes,
Yeah.
"So is this playoff P?" And Paul, like, I think we overuse this term, okay? But Paul didn't shut him down or anything like that. He just smiled. He said, "Sure."
He didn't
I mean,
take
to
a
me,
bait.
you know why that was big for me though, Rach? Like, he always says too much. That's a problem. Like, he's like a real human being, and he's so honest, and he says what he's really feeling, and he's really thinking.
Don't we like that?
And we love that. But you know what? Sometimes when you say too much, those words come back and they get twisted around on you. And then when you hit the side of the backboard, that's all we say and all we see. And you know what? It's something Chauncey Billups has been working with him on, and they've been talking to him a lot as he's coaching him to be, by the way, the real PG point guard. Okay, Paul George point guard. He's running the point for them this year. And don't say it so much. Like, just keep it calm, keep it grounded. And I think. Sometimes I think Paul gives us the quote we want to hear, and last night he did it. Last night he was so locked into what he's doing, and it's about what he's doing on the court right there. And I've always thought this, and the more I've been watching him, he's great as a one. Like he's
really is.
He's such a nice person that when he gets next to Russell Westbrook as another alpha, when he gets next to Kawhi Leonard, he's another alpha. He's so nice. He defers. He kind of loses himself a little bit. I think he's a great two. He blends with everybody. But when he's a one, as you were talking about in Indiana, he's great.
Yeah.
And when Kawhi's been out, he's been great.
And we don't talk about him defensively.
Yeah.
I mean, that, by the way, and I noted this at the top of the show, the playoff P thing, the whole reason he even said it was in response to a question about his defense. You can go back and watch the clip.
Yeah.
The first time he utters playoff P, the thing that got everybody all crazy, the question was, are you the kind of guy, and this was sort of people in Oklahoma City who were new to him, are you the kind of guy who's going to ask to get switched on defensively to the other team's best player? A topic, by the way, that has come up quite a bit in NBA circles this week vis-a-vis Giannis Antetokounmpo and Kevin Durant. We will get to that later in the show. But apparently that is of huge value in the NBA community, and he is the guy who said over and over, yes, I want to do that. To him, that was playoff.
Jazz were 4 for 13.
That's how I saw him first as a defensive guy.
Yeah.
Before he was a great offensive player. Yesterday, he held them to fourth, 13 shooting from the field, caused 2 turnovers. He has the complete package, and I think, hey, that could vault him finally to the conference finals.
Absolutely. All right, I want to switch gears to the Eastern Conference because, boy, that was a game last night, friends. Sixers blowing a 26-point lead at home in Game 5. The Sixers falling apart in the second half particularly. In fact, Joel Embiid and Seth Curry, the only Philly players to make field goals in the second half. This loss stings even more after they relinquished an 18-point lead to the Hawks in Game 4. How unlikely was this comeback? Exactly. This graphic is amazing. According to it's hard to see on this screen the way we have it, but the Sixers had a 99% chance to win entering the fourth quarter. With 7 minutes left, it was still 98.6%.
Oh my gosh.
Then it starts to go in the other direction, falling to 86 with 3 minutes left, 46 with about a minute left, minute and a half, and here we go. I mean, that's just, that chart is incredible.
Oh my
right?
God.
And this is the Hawks win probability chart. I know I'm mentioning numbers from the Sixers side, but Ramona, how can the Sixers recover from this loss?
Oh, gotta take a breath. Okay, gotta take a breath. And then you need, and this is, I hate saying this because Doc Rivers is such a great coach, okay? And he's such a great leader. But I've seen his teams have this happen to them a couple of times. And I think some of it is Doc is a great leader, and sometimes the guys on the court look to him for leadership and they don't do it themselves.
Okay.
And when they're out on the court, there's a way that you can settle people down, and it's not just by scoring. Okay, Seth, you mentioned this earlier. Seth Curry and Joel were the only people to score in the second half. Okay? One, you look at actually what went wrong. They went to the all-bench lineup, and they put Tobias out there because he's been struggling, and they wanted to get him going. Doesn't work.
Nope.
Okay, Ben misses a couple free throws. He's got to come out. 4-14 from the line. That's not going to work.
Nope.
But superstars win NBA championships. And Joel Embiid finished second in the MVP voting this year. He is a great player. Unbelievable first half in this one. But he can do more. He really can. He's averaging 16.9 field goal attempts per game. He can get 20, 24, 25, 26. He can actually do more. He is that dominant. And when you have this happening to you on the court and it's getting away from you, just feed the big guy every time.
In the mortal words of Giant from Obeta Blues, this is the roughest of the roughest. They have given the Atlanta Hawks confidence.
Yeah.
This is a team that was...
Okay, time out. I don't know if anyone needed to give Trae Young confidence.
That's right.
No, I said
That's
the
right.
Hawks.
I get you.
They have given them extreme confidence. They're in the lead now.
Yeah.
They're this We Believe team now.
Yeah.
And this city is behind them,
They're
man.
going back to
it's
the A,
crazy
baby.
in Atlanta. We got Quavo going to be there tomorrow. Maybe Andre 3000 shows up with his flute.
Yep.
You know, Killer Mike. Like, that's going to be a crazy, crazy situation. And that's what I mean by roughest of the roughest. You got Friday night in the A?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, man.
In the summer, too.
I remember KG, Kevin Garnett, in 2008. He won't agree with me with this, but the only time I ever saw him rattle by a crowd a little bit was in Atlanta when the Celtics played there. That place, I know people don't give it the respect it deserves, but at this level, it's an intimidating place. So it's the roughest of the roughest for the Sixers going into that house with
well, it's
gotta
Trae,
deal with
baby.
him there.
Mark, you sound like you want to go.
I mean, you get teleportation.
If I can get on Rachel's private jet,
Yeah. Call me when you find that private jet. I've never seen it. I will say this about Joel Embiid. To your point, he could be, but the Joel Embiid I saw last night, he was having trouble in that second half doing more. And that is, of course, because of the knee injury. And it's a shame because he's been in such great shape all season. So this is not a fitness issue. But you get tired when you are playing on an injured, hobbled leg. It takes so much more energy the entire game. And we are seeing him wear down a little bit at the end of games. So that's a problem. And the Ben Simmons problem is something that they are going to have to figure out how to solve. It is worth remembering there was an inflection point about a third of the way through this season where Daryl Morey could have made a more Godfather offer than he clearly did to trade Ben Simmons for James Harden. And I don't know what extra little piece it would have taken from what he actually offered to the Houston Rockets, but I do know that at some point you can push yourself over the top if you put enough in, and Daryl Morey certainly knows that of anyone. And I just think, I'm not saying he should have done it. I'm not. I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
It is just interesting to remember that as we look back, once we see what happens in this series, because you could have had James Harden not on the Nets, but on your team, so that super team in Brooklyn would not have been as super. And maybe Ben Simmons' trade value, if I'm not looking to trade Ben off of the Sixers, but if that is what the front office decides, if they decide that, his trade value is less.
So I agree with you on the point at large. I don't know that it was an issue of the Godfather offer. I think it was more, would Houston even really talk to them seriously? Were they a stalking horse? Were they ever really in there?
That's fair.
Or they were just there to bid up?
Again, though, I want to make this clear. So listen to me, Internet. I am not saying that Philly should trade Ben Simmons. I am saying this is a reality thing that happened in the NBA this year, and it is context for what is going on right now.
I'm going to say Miami should have did it.
Well, we'll go talk about that, too, in the break. Coming up, Zion Williamson slated to have his third head coach in 3 seasons. How will that impact his career? First, though, time for our distant replay. This date, 1994, Patrick Ewing. And if you listen really close to your TV, you can see tiny producer Steve shouting from his living room right back then. Look at Patrick.
I've seen that dance. People don't credit Ewing with that
Did
dance.
you know that that's a Georgetown basketball product? Have I ever mentioned that?
I've heard that. I've heard that
Played for Georgetown. Welcome back to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols, still joined by Marc Spears. And guess who's back, giving us a little more detail on that Nets-Bucks series, our NBA reporter, Mallika Andrews. Thank you for stopping by, and your fabulous producer, Andrew Pelkey. We appreciate it. Mallika, James Harden played 46 minutes on that right hamstring in Game 5. Did not look like himself out there, but the Nets got the win after the game. He said about his minutes, it's a lot, but I am built for it. What have you learned about how he is feeling in the day and a half since, and how much do you expect him to play tonight?
Well, Steve Nash said yesterday that he came through the night, even after carrying that workload, Rachel, feeling good. Now, I don't know if good is relative after playing that many minutes, coming off of some hamstring tightness with that much kinesiology tape on, but that's what Steve Nash said. They've also said that he is available to play. Now, look, Nash also added that he doesn't know which version of James Harden is going to show up here, right? Is he going to potentially look more comfortable because he's experienced what his limitations exactly might be, and there's some comfort level around that? Or is that fatigue from those 46 minutes going to impact his legs? That's what Nash couldn't answer to us. But he's going to play. He's going to give it a go. And if he played 46 minutes in game one, I'm not going to put a limit on him tonight.
You know, I kind of look at it as some YMCA 46 minutes. I mean, if you look how James Harden played, which was brilliant by the Nets, I mean, he was basically, going from three-point line to three-point line.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite the normal 46-minute one would have, sprinting up and down the floor. In a lot of ways, he was a decoy, didn't really shoot great, but he made great plays, and his presence on the floor was amazing. But it reminds me of that old cat named Steve, who's at the Y, and all he does is...
Is his name always Steve?
It's always Steve.
It's always Steve.
He goes three-point line to three-point line, but his team always wins, man.
Well, here's my question to you, though. Were you surprised the Bucks didn't go at him more?
Yes.
And try to move him around more defensively. That was shocking.
Take him off some screens.
I know it was sort of late developing that he was back in that game after he'd been ruled out the day before, but you knew he was playing. I mean, we knew a couple hours before the game, so I assume the Bucks have the internet.
A lot of diving to the basket, stuff like that.
Yeah, I just was very confused about why they did not try to take advantage of the fact that he was clearly less mobile. I don't know if we're going to see a change tonight, Mallika. On the Bucks side of things, they not only had James Harden, who they didn't try to exploit the fact that he wasn't that mobile, they also allowed Kevin Durant to drop 49 on them. So how are they preparing to make things different tonight?
Well, I was speaking with some of the members of the Bucks organization last night, Rachel, and I asked them, are you going to attack James Harden more? And they said, yeah, we're going to try. We don't necessarily want to play him one-on-one all the time. Even this limited capacity, James Harden, they didn't have a lot of chutzpah when I asked them why they wouldn't want to do that. And they told me that, well, perhaps we want to put him in more pick-and-roll situations that we can exploit those sorts of things on the defensive end. But what sticks out to me from that game is down the stretch when James Harden has Giannis Antetokounmpo one-on-one, James Harden waves off the help defender, takes Giannis one-on-one, and Giannis takes a fadeaway shot, right? So those are the things that they've been buckling down in film. Right? Those are the things that they've been buckling down on in film, I've been told, over the last several hours, trying to look at that, trying to make those adjustments. But we also know, right, Rachel and Mark, that Mike Budenholzer isn't a huge fan of adjustments when he doesn't believe they have to make them. And this Bucks team believes that, look, it required Kevin Durant going off for 49 points to beat us. We don't expect that, or Jeff Green to go have 27 points again tonight. That's what they're expecting.
Boy, no, KD, I think when he sees Giannis on the other end, I know he has LeBron on this level, but he sees Giannis as one of the few people that are trying to take his perch. So to me, I know when he sees Giannis, man, he takes his game up to a different level. He wants to shut down this stuff the same way Kobe wanted to keep LeBron down.
Well, here, I want to get to the matchup between them because, first of all, Mallika, that's excellent reporting of what Milwaukee is saying. Yeah. Counting on Kevin Durant not to be good doesn't seem like the best strategy to me, but hey, I do want to get to a quick soundbite from Giannis, who answered a question about not guarding Kevin Durant for much of that 49-point masterpiece. Here is what he said about guarding him going forward. Take a listen.
Sure. I want to take the challenge, and obviously everybody's going to have a chance to guard him, but I would love to go to game 6 to be able to guard him, and if coach wants me to do that, I'm ready for it.
I would love to go into game 6 with more of a chance to guard him. Do you think that actually is going to happen, Mallika?
Well, the qualifier at the end there, Rachel, is if that is what Mike Budenholzer asks him to do. right? And so we know that he has success, right, on Kevin Durant when he guards him. In this series alone, he's kept him to 5 of 7 from the field. Over the last 8 seasons, for any defender of the 43 defenders that have guarded him for 50 or more shots, Giannis has kept him to the lowest shooting percentage, right? So we know he's successful. But from what I've been told, don't expect Giannis to open up guarding Kevin Durant. They like Drew Holiday, they like PJ Tucker, they like Chris Middleton on him, and have Giannis be the help defender. I know that's not the sexy answer, but that's what I'm expecting to see, at least to open it up.
Yeah, what they like isn't working. Like in 2018, I was at a game at Oracle Arena, and Giannis gave Kevin problems with his length, with his physicality. Yeah. Kevin ended up getting ejected from the game. To me, that's the only time I've ever seen any defender make Kevin work. And I said this yesterday. He's got the length. He's got the athleticism. It's like he's looking at somebody in the same body size in the mirror. That doesn't happen for Durant. Like, at some point, I don't know what the coach's game plan is, but some of these players, I know Chauncey and them used to do this with the Pistons. Like, all right, I know coach said this, but this is what you're doing. Coach can't run on the court and make you do this or that. And I don't expect Kevin to do none less. I think he's going to destroy them if they continue this game plan.
Well, we'd like to see decision-making from the Bucks on the court to be better all the way around. Some of the shot selection, obviously talking about those Giannis, again,
Pride.
Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Go to the hoop. If you have that skill set, do something different, especially early in the shot clock. We will see whether that happens tonight. We're going to switch gears, talking about what's going on in Dallas coming up next. Luka Doncic made his first public comments today since the Mavs and general manager Donnie Nelson parted ways. Stick around to hear his reaction. And Marc,
League, and that's coming from the limousine ride, jet flying, Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun, Ric Flair. It's a make or miss league. Woo!
Indeed it is, Ric Flair. Indeed it is. Miss Fear, let's stay in Utah. Reggie Jackson showing zero fear. Mr. June, can we call him that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Get it? Reggie Jackson.
Well, there's still some more June to go, but you know what? I've talked to Reggie a little bit. He is the most comfortable right now than he has been in his entire career. He is so happy here in Los Angeles, and he's healthy.
Yeah.
The biggest difference.
He also had this in his bag in Detroit. We forgot that he had this game in it.
Paul George didn't. Wasn't he the one who recruited?
Last guy signed to this roster. Look at it now.
Yep. So there you go.
Wow.
And sticking with it on a bunch of possessions, too. I like that.
He got his confidence back.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they got it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Make sleep still in Utah. A Jazz fan caught some Z's.
Oh.
I relate to this.
So these were very expensive
Don't
Z's.
give this guy a hard time. Come on.
I mean,
It's a late game in Salt Lake. You know he's past his bedtime.
well, he needs some Steve Ballmer energy, right? Because Steve Ballmer is not sleeping.
Do you know how loud it is there? I mean, that's some.
To be able to fall asleep,
Look,
right?
when you're tired. I sleep in my car. I understand this man.
right? Remember the Lakers game? That guy who was passed out outside? And then he was passed. So that was like for real. And then like the next 2 games, he did it kind of as a joke. Right?
That's
I
great.
don't know if the Jazz guy is going to have the same
I used
sense
to
of
think
humor.
I used to think you could, when I was in college, I'd fall asleep in class, nobody could see me. Fully see
They
everything.
Looks like
totally
Mitch Kupchak.
I don't think it was Mitch Kupchak.
No.
I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Playoff.
Misjudgment. Hawks Sixers. Clint Capella trying to tough move on Embiid. Gets called for traveling here. Clint and Joel getting tied up. Embiid takes a tumble. Watch this. Right?
That was amazing.
The ref issues a tech on Clint for a push.
Yeah.
What do you
Joel
think?
sold this. I don't know. That's a
He
good
may not be a Boban actor, but
That's pretty good.
Good, right?
And the way he falls to, whoa, the outrage. Where's the call?
Is there acting
Good, Joe.
class these guys been taking in LA and all?
Joe's a soccer fan. He watches this stuff.
I was gonna say that is an excellent point. You're gonna pretend it's just here in Los Angeles, please. There we go. Woo! All right, let's move on to the
Workout.
constantly evolving coaching carousel here in the NBA. Because here are the current job openings. After yesterday, this number is up to 6 open positions. This is fantastic. I'm just gonna play this. Can we play this for the whole rest of the show? It's great.
I just want them to move, too. I want them to see live action.
Atlanta
Awesome.
technically
I know.
still has Nate McMillan under the interim tag, by the way, so not on this full screen here, but still. Let's
Yeah,
focus
there
on
might
the
be 2 more
Pelicans.
jobs on that list.
Whoa, Mark.
Mark keeps saying this on
Dang.
TV. Just throwing it out there. Sam Van Gundy is out in New Orleans. We'll get to Mark's other not very subtle digs about Milwaukee and Atlanta in a minute. Zion Williamson having his third coach in 3 seasons with the franchise. How do you think this turnover will impact the former number 1 pick? You spent a lot of time down there.
I hate to see him keep having somebody in his family speak for him. If that's how you feel, say it. If you want
So you're referring to share with our friends here?
It's somebody in his family, according to Athletic, is saying that he's not unhappy, but that's been the thing since Zion was drafted. So just if you gotta say something, he should say it, because it's just bringing him more drama. When everywhere he goes now, do you want to come to New York? Do you want to come to LA? Like it's just adding more drama to Zion, and in New Orleans they're sensitive to this. Chris Paul departed when the ownership was bad, right? Anthony Davis' dad was unhappy there.
Sure.
Anthony Davis wanted out. So I know my New Orleans folks now. They're real sensitive to this. So I think it's anytime he want to go get a beignet or some gumbo or some of that real good Popeyes they got there, they're going to be asking him if he's staying or not. And it's going to be more than annoying because, not him, but because of somebody else.
That's a great point, Mark. And I think when you have a player like Zion, you want to win. I mean, he doesn't need to apply any pressure.
No.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to flex. You want to win with Zion Williams because he's awesome. And like when he came into the league, who would you have thought would make the playoffs first? Him or John Morant? Which franchise do you think would have made the playoffs first in terms of what he walked into, in terms of the situation? And David Griffin wants to get this right, okay? And I thought Stan Van Gundy...
He got to.
Yeah.
He got a summer to get it right for him.
Right? And look, Stan Van Gundy did one really good thing for Zion is that he put him as a point guard.
Yeah.
Played him in that point position.
Forward,
He is great in that spot. Zion still has to work at the defensive end, so they don't have to hide him on defense. But he is great in this point guard role. They need to find somebody who Zion respects and entrust that person. And I say person because Zion
That'd be Teresa Witherspoon. Say it again. Say it loud, people.
Why is she on the carousel?
Dude, that's right. Put her on the carousel.
Put her on the carousel. Team Spoon. Keep going.
It's your show. Put her on the carousel.
I am just a
Order
cog
that. Order
in
that.
No,
that is who Zion respects.
Yeah,
okay?
but this summer is important for the Pelicans. They got to get it right. They got to get the shooting. They got to get the players. They got to get to the playoffs.
Right. Teaspoon will be coming. Producer Steve said in my ear, Teaspoon is coming soon on the carousel. We are going to make that happen.
And when you say they got to get it right, they got to get the shooting, okay? There are some great shooters out there who are free agents. One of them is named Duncan Robinson from the Miami Heat. He's a restricted free agent, but
he could be pried away.
Yeah, you can throw a lot at him.
Maybe in a trade.
Yeah.
Here is something else. You mentioned the other cities, whatever. Zion Williamson is going to be with the New Orleans Pelicans for a long time. They control his contract rights for 3 more years. They're not looking to trade away the great luck that they got in drafting him. And he should want to be in New Orleans for a long time.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic... I hear
Remember him on the lottery night?
Don't have to tell Mr. LSU here. This is one of the premier cities in America. It just is. And it is a franchise that is ready to explode around him the minute they have some playoff success. The people in that market will go nuts. He is already loved. It is already a good fit. There is already the making of a good roster around him. This is not a broken situation in any way, shape, or form, but it does need to be glued together more firmly. And the franchise has a chance to do that this summer, and they all need to get on the same page. If it's the front office, if it's Zion, if it is his family, get on the room, get those beignets. Let's get to work because he can be elite for this New Orleans Pelicans team. Coming up, the All-NBA teams were released earlier this week. Should the voting for these teams be positionless? You may have heard me make that point 803 times on this show. I'm going to make it for the 804th time after this break, but I'll do it in a new, fresh, interesting way. In the Nuggets, but things change. They move fast in this league, and yesterday Chris Paul entered the health and safety protocols with no definitive timetable for return. Mark, you know Suns coach Monty Williams so well. How is he ready to meet this challenge? Because I said yesterday, to me, they could not be looking at a better option for who is going to lead them through a very difficult situation.
No, Monty has certainly been through a lot of tragedy off the court, obstacles on the court. But, man, this is tough. He's a praying man, and Monty's definitely has certainly been doing a lot of praying over the last couple of days. Chris Paul is phenomenal.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be his moment. This is supposed to be his time when he could finally get to the finals. And this isn't the regular season where you're just playing tomorrow we got
Yeah.
Orlando, and the next day we got Sac. No, you have an elite team that's trying to get to the finals, that's trying to keep you out. This is the worst time.
Yep.
The worst time. And God best campaign. I think he's doing the best he can. But, man, I'm hoping for some good news for CP because I don't want no asterisk on this for the Suns. I want them to be able to play with CP and see if they could finally get back to the finals and get there for the first time with him.
Yeah.
I would like to say a word for campaign, though. I covered that first round series when Chris Paul could not lift his shoulder,
Yep.
and Monty Williams had to keep taking him out in the second half.
Yep.
And when he took him out, Cameron Payne did a heck of a job out there. Like this is a guy who was almost out of the league. We're talking about going to play in China. Like nobody wanted to give him a shot. He was signing 10-day contracts.
They couldn't play.
I mean, look how good he has been in these games when he has been asked to go in there. And I thought Monty did something interesting in that Lakers series when Chris Paul was out. He took him out. He would give him a chance to play, and if it was clear that he was laboring and he could not do it, he would sit him in that second half. And I think that's an empowering thing to do for the rest of your team because one, it gives clarity. It says, okay, Chris is sitting. We don't have him now. It's on you guys. There's no Joel Embiid in the second half of that Atlanta game where he's 0 for 12.
This is all true, but I will say, because I was doing sidelines for a couple of those games, you could hear Chris Paul every second, even when he was on the bench. He was shouting instructions, doing this, the pointing, the that, the other thing. And I do think it is a different thing to be doing it where he is just locked in a room somewhere. So I don't know.
There's two CPs, but there's a difference in one.
Well, yes.
Well, they get an earpiece for the rest of the team. They could pipe him in, sort of Bergerac style, right?
They could do. I will just say again, I think Monty Williams is up for the challenge, but it is absolutely an enormous challenge. I do want to talk about the All-NBA teams. They were announced Tuesday, but yesterday was just too bonkers for us to get to it. First team featuring Giannis, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Kawhi Leonard, and MVP Nikola Jokic. 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center there. This is going to come up because second team featuring MVP runner-up Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Julius Randle, Damian Lillard, and Chris Paul. Again, 2 guards, 2 forwards, a center. And the third team features Rudy Gobert, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving. So, Ramona, when you consider that the top 2 MVP candidates this season were centers, is this yet another argument for the argument I have been making till I am blue in the face that all NBA should be positionless?
Absolutely, right? I mean, look, Joel Embiid and Damian Lillard, by the way, had more votes than the number 5 finisher on the first team, Kawhi Leonard. Not to take anything away from Kawhi.
More All-NBA votes.
They had more All-NBA votes. The way you do it is you get 5 points for a first-place vote, for a first-team vote, 3 points for a second-team vote, 1 point for a third-team vote. Now, Joel Embiid was eligible at both forward and center, so he got quite a bit of first-team All-NBA votes. I was one of those.
Me too.
Okay?
Forward position.
Forward. You can put him at a forward. However, when the votes were tabulated, they placed them in the category where they got the most votes. So he got the most votes as a center because more people put him as a second-team center. Right. Understandable, but you have a situation where you have Kawhi Leonard having less votes than 2 guys who are on the second team. Which means a lot of us voted Dame Lillard on the first team. A lot of us voted Joel Embiid on the first team. And yet, because of the way it's categorized positionally, it didn't work. Now, the other way, Jason Tatum, got a little argument here. He was eligible at both guard and forward. He had more votes. Than the last place finisher on the third team, which was Kyrie Irving. That's a lot of money that cost Jason Tatum.
So Jason Tatum had an escalator clause in his contract. If he had made All-NBA, he would have gotten $33 million extra dollars. So that position designation, to Ramona's point, it was because of that. He had the votes, but because of the position designation, he is now out $33 million. You, on the other hand,
old school,
mon frere, you say...
You can't kill the center.
No one's killing them. In fact, I want 2 of them on the first team.
No one has died is the power forward. There's no such thing as a power forward no more.
They're all point forwards.
So let them, like this. Here's why this doesn't make sense to you, right? First of all, the voting should reflect the way the game is played. We're talking about Zion as a point guard. We're talking about, all these guys, and Eric Spoelstra is the one who pushed what had been going on some teams in some places into a just
we got to change
flat out
Game's
thing.
over. We do the Kobe All-Star rule in the game.
When there's this much money tied to those votes,
and also,
then it shouldn't be tied.
Also, by the way,
that's
and this ties into this. Well, this is interesting to me.
Yeah.
You don't vote anymore because of that.
Yeah.
A man of principle, which I appreciate.
Yep.
I I don't understand how MVP, I kept being told over and over, is not about who the best player in the league is. I get chastened every year by people screaming at me
is all beauty contest.
because they're like, well, the best stats for this season. I'm like, great, let's just call it the best season award and then have an MVP be for who is the best player today. If the aliens came down and you had to pick someone, that is not what MVP is apparently for. It's just who had the best stats that season. Coach of the year is supposed to be for something else. Can all NBA just be for here are the 15 best guys this year, and that way we have a historical snapshot of these are them. Here are the 5 best. Here are the next 5 best. Here are the next.
And Rachel, when we voted for Joel Embiid on our first team, because we moved him to forward, it kind of messed up your ballot for the third
some of the later guys.
For the later team, where I got to a choice where I had to find someone to vote for.
Have a center in that spot.
And there's not as many people eligible at center. So I didn't feel bad about voting for Bam Adebayo, but I would have rather voted for Russell Westbrook. Okay? Would have rather voted for Russ there. It boxes you into these positional categories so you don't end up with the top 15 players.
There is no award for who are the best guys. There's just no award right now.
Bill Russell's rolling in his grave right now.
Why would you say that about our very present and alive Bill Russell?
I'm just being silly.
Yeah.
My Lord. I'm looking at you thinking, oh my God.
You're going to catch that.
You're going to catch that. Know about it?
Bill Russell's alive and well.
Thank you. I had a little heart palpitation
Come
there.
on, man.
That's a phrase. It's okay.
Centers alone.
I am the one trying to put two of them on first team All NBA. The game is positionless in so many ways right now. And again, if we can't use MVP to just recognize, hey, who's the best player this year, and we all know it, and we can't use some of the other awards to do it, how about we do it with All NBA? Positionless, here are the best 15. Go. I dare you, NBA. Awards reform. Think about it. Be about it. Put as many centers as you want. We put 2.
I put 2 on the first
All right.
team.
Ramona has to go to a radio show. She's very busy. We appreciate her time. I am too. But
I heard you on the Zoom call at midnight last night. I know.
You're multi-platform. She's very famous. All right. Coming up ahead of Game 6 tonight, we got Mallika Andrews coming in. She's going to join us to talk about the Bucks preparing for tonight's game, how James Harden is feeling after playing 46 minutes in Game 5. She's in Milwaukee.